The internet is an absolute meltdown after Drake just shook up the entire music industry with one announcement. Out of nowhere, Drake revealed the official release date for ICEMAN, and the timing has fans side-eyeing everything. Why? Because it lands suspiciously close to Baby Keem's highly anticipated album drop. And now the question everyone is asking is simple: coincidence or calculated move? Within minutes of the announcement, social media exploded. Twitter timelines filled with conspiracy threads. TikTok creators started breaking down industry chess moves. Instagram hip-hop pages posted side-by-side release calendars with dramatic captions like "He did not have to do this." The streets are talking, and the narrative is forming fast. Drake might be stepping on Baby Keem's moment. Let's be real. Drake isn't just any artist dropping randomly. He's one of the biggest streaming forces in the world. When he releases music, it dominates charts, playlists, headlines, and algorithms. So when he locks in a release date that overlaps with another major artist, especially someone building momentum like Baby Keem, people notice, and they start speculating. Some fans are saying this is classic competitive strategy. In today's streaming era, first-week numbers matter. Headlines matter. Attention spans are short. If Drake floods the market the same week Baby Keem drops, the conversation could shift instantly. Playlists might prioritize one over the other. Media coverage could tilt. The spotlight might move. Others are defending Drake, arguing that major labels plan releases months in advance and that overlapping dates happen all the time. Not every move is a diss. Not every drop is personal. Sometimes it's just business. But here's what makes this situation different. The timing feels deliberate. The build-up, the surprise announcement, the immediate reaction from fans. It feels like something bigger is brewing beneath the surface. Is Drake asserting dominance? Is this friendly competition? Or is this the beginning of a quiet industry Cold War? One thing is certain. The moment Drake said ICEMAN drops on, the entire hip-hop landscape shifted. And now all eyes on Baby Keem to see how he responds. Because when giants move, the industry trembles. And right now, it's shaking. When Drake officially confirmed the release date for ICEMAN, it didn't just feel like another album rollout. It felt strategic. The announcement wasn't dragged out with cryptic billboards or weeks of teaser trailers. It was clean, direct, confident. And that confidence is exactly why fans immediately started connecting the dots. Because here's the thing. Timing in the music industry is never random. Especially not for someone operating at the level of Drake. Every release window is analyzed. Every competing drop is considered. Streaming projections, playlist placement, first-week sales forecasts. These aren't afterthoughts. They are part of the blueprint. So when the ICEMAN date landed dangerously close to Baby Keem's upcoming album, people didn't just shrug it off. They zoomed in. Baby Keem has been building serious momentum. He's not just another rising rapper trying to find his lane. He's carved out a distinct sound, cultivated a loyal fan base, and positioned himself as one of the most exciting voices in modern hip-hop. His last projects showed growth, risk-taking, and creative confidence. Industry insiders have been whispering that this upcoming album could be his biggest leap yet, the one that pushes him from promising talent to undeniable star. Now imagine preparing for that moment. Months of studio sessions, feature clearances, marketing rollouts, teasers carefully spaced out to maximize anticipation. Then suddenly, one of the biggest artists on the planet announces a release that overlaps with yours. That changes everything. Drake doesn't just drop albums. He dominates release weeks. His music floods playlists on Spotify and Apple Music. He trends on social media before midnight hits. Blogs write think pieces within hours. Reaction channels go live instantly. When Drake releases, casual listeners who might have sampled multiple projects that week often lock into his first. It's gravity. And that's where the speculation starts to feel less like paranoia and more like industry reality. Is Drake trying to ruin Baby Keem's album? That's the dramatic version circulating online. But a more nuanced perspective suggests something else. Competition. Pure and simple. Hip-hop has always thrived on competitive energy. Release dates used to be battlegrounds. Artists would intentionally drop on the same day to prove who could move more units. In the streaming era, It's less about physical sales and more about attention economy. Who owns the conversation? Who trends longer? Who secures the bigger debut? By choosing this date, Drake guarantees that any album conversation that week includes his name first. Media outlets will prioritize covering ICEMAN. Streaming platforms may center their homepage banners around him. Even neutral listeners might default to pressing play on the more established superstar. But here's the twist. Some fans think this move might actually backfire. Baby Keem's core audience is passionate. They don't just listen casually. They engage deeply. They dissect lyrics. They analyze production. They champion him as a creative risk-taker in a landscape often dominated by safer formulas. If anything, this overlap could ignite a surge of support from fans who feel he's being overshadowed. Nothing fuels streaming numbers like a narrative. And right now, there's a narrative forming fast. On social media, threads are dissecting possible motivations. Some believe Drake sees Baby Keem as part of a new wave gaining cultural momentum. Artists who prioritize artistry over chart tactics. Others think this is simply Drake reasserting his position at the top after months of heavy scrutiny and competition in the rap world. Dropping strong numbers with ICEMAN during a crowded release week would send a clear message. He's still the benchmark. It's also important to consider the business side. Labels compete. Management teams negotiate. Distribution platforms analyze projections constantly. Sometimes overlapping releases aren't personal. They're chess moves within a much larger corporate game. If projections showed that this particular week maximized Drake's streaming potential globally, that might have outweighed concerns about stepping on another artist's rollout. Still, perception matters. And perception right now is intense. Fans are replaying past moments where major artists seem to strategically drop near competitors. They're comparing chart histories. They are predicting first-week numbers before either album has even been fully promoted. It's turned into a pre-release battle before a single track from ICEMAN has even been heard. And that's the genius of it. Whether intentional or not, Drake's announcement has guaranteed attention. Instead of one album rollout happening quietly, we now have a storyline. A clash. A question hanging over release week. Who wins? Baby Keem hasn't publicly reacted. No tweets. No subliminal captions, just silence. And sometimes, silence is louder than anything else. It suggests confidence. It suggests focus. It suggests that maybe he's letting the music speak instead of the timeline. But make no mistake, this release week just became one of the most streaming titan versus creative disruptor. And as we get closer to those midnight drops, one thing is guaranteed. Every playlist click, every chart update, every trending topic will be watched closely. Because this isn't just about albums anymore. It's about positioning. As the dust settled from the announcement, industry insiders started looking beyond the surface-level drama and into the mechanics of what this actually means. Because when someone at the level of Drake makes a move, it's rarely emotional. It's calculated. And if this is calculated, then there's a larger strategy unfolding behind the scenes. First, let's talk numbers. Drake has built a career not just on hits, but on consistency. Year after year, project after project, he delivers massive streaming debuts. Even in moments where critics question direction or sound, the numbers still show up. That consistency gives him leverage. Streaming platforms trust him. Editorial playlists anticipate him. Algorithms favor engagement, and Drake guarantees engagement. Now put that next to Baby Keem. Keem represents a different energy. His catalog is smaller, but it's curated. His releases feel more selective, less frequent, more intentional. That approach builds anticipation, but it also means each drop carries heavier weight. There's less room for distraction. If both albums arrive within the same release window, streaming competition becomes unavoidable. Playlists like Rap Caviar, Most Necessary, New Music Friday, those coveted top slots can only spotlight so many tracks at once. Yes, both artists can be featured, but the size of the spotlight matters. A banner at the top of the page versus a mid-scroll placement can significantly impact first-week momentum. This is where fans begin framing the situation as a power move. Because Drake doesn't need a quiet week to succeed. He thrives in crowded spaces. His brand is built on dominating the conversation. So choosing a week that's already heating up could be interpreted as confidence or as crowd control. Some analysts believe this could be about narrative control. In recent months, hip-hop has seen shifting alliances, debates over lyricism versus commercial appeal, and constant social media comparisons between established icons and emerging voices. If Baby Keem's album were to land alone and receive overwhelming praise, the conversation could center on the new era. By entering that same space, Drake ensures the conversation remains balanced or even redirected. But here's another layer that hasn't been discussed enough: audience overlap. While their styles differ, there is significant crossover between Drake listeners and Baby Keem fans. They share streaming demographics, playlist placements, and festival audiences. When two artists compete for the same ears on the same weekend, something has to give. Casual listeners often prioritize familiarity. That familiarity could tilt toward Drake. However, cultural impact isn't always dictated by numbers. Baby Keem has built a reputation for crafting moments that resonate beyond chart positions. His fans amplify standout lyrics, dissect production choices, and turn album cuts into viral soundtracks. If his project delivers something bold or unexpected, it could spark organic momentum that no strategic timing can suppress. And this is where the situation becomes fascinating instead of predictable. If Drake drops ICEMAN and delivers exactly what fans expect: polished hooks, calculated features, replay-ready singles, he maintains dominance. But if Baby Keem drops an album that shifts the creative landscape, even temporarily, the cultural conversation could lean his way regardless of streaming totals. There's also the possibility that this entire ruined narrative is exaggerated by fans craving conflict. Hip-hop audiences love rivalries. They love framing events as battles. Sometimes two artists simply operate on their own timelines, and overlap is unavoidable. Major labels often coordinate months ahead. Tour schedules, vinyl production timelines, and global marketing campaigns can limit flexibility. Still, the optics are undeniable. The phrase "trying to ruin" is dramatic, but drama fuels engagement. Every reaction video, every tweet, every TikTok theory adds to the visibility of both projects. Ironically, the speculation may boost both artists rather than hurt either one. Controversy can function as free promotion. Another angle worth considering is confidence signaling. By dropping during a competitive window, Drake might be sending a message. He's not concerned about competition. He's not waiting for clear air. He's comfortable sharing the stage because he believes he'll still command it. That type of move reinforces superstar aura. For Baby Keem, the challenge becomes opportunity. If he holds his date and stands firm, it signals belief in his work. It shows that he doesn't need a quiet runway to take off. And if he manages to post strong numbers alongside Drake, it elevates his credibility instantly. There's also the unpredictable factor of the music itself. Right now, debates are based purely on timing. No one has heard the full scope of ICEMAN. No one knows what sonic direction Drake is taking. No one knows how experimental or mainstream Baby Keem's album will be. Once the music arrives, narratives can flip overnight. We've seen it before. Pre-release speculation builds one story. Post-release reception writes another. As release week approaches, anticipation is shifting from "why did he do this?" to "who delivers?" Because ultimately, no amount of strategic timing can replace strong music. Streams spike on curiosity, but longevity depends on quality. So is Drake trying to overshadow Baby Keem? Or is he simply playing the long game, confident that his presence alone shapes the board? One thing is certain: this isn't just a release week anymore. It's a moment that could redefine positioning for both artists. And when the clock strikes midnight, speculation will turn into scoreboard watching. And that's when the real story begins. As release week inches closer, the conversation has evolved from speculation to full-blown debate about legacy, power, and positioning. Because when you strip away the headlines and dramatic captions, what's really happening here is a test of hierarchy. And hierarchy matters in hip-hop. For over a decade, Drake has occupied a near-untouchable tier. He's survived generational shifts, streaming model changes, algorithm updates, and wave after wave of rising talent. Every few years, a new name is framed as "next up," And every few years, Drake remains exactly where he's always been, at the center of the conversation. That kind of staying power isn't accidental. It's strategic adaptation. But the industry is changing faster than ever. Listeners are fragmenting. Micro-communities are forming around specific sounds and aesthetics. The era of one artist dominating the entire cultural narrative is harder to maintain. And that's where Baby Keem enters the equation. Keem doesn't operate like a traditional mainstream star. His appeal is rooted in unpredictability. His beat selections are unconventional. His vocal inflections shift between playful and menacing. His albums, there's another factor fueling the intensity: alignment. Baby Keem is closely associated with a different creative ecosystem, one often praised for prioritizing artistry and cohesive storytelling. That ecosystem has earned critical acclaim and cultural respect. So this overlap feels, to some, like a clash between two different philosophies of hip-hop success: dominance through ubiquity versus impact through intention. Online, fans are drawing battle lines. Drake supporters argue that no one owns a release date and that true artists shouldn't fear competition. They frame this as a confidence move, proof that Drake isn't ducking anyone. Meanwhile, Baby Keem supporters suggest that the timing disrupts an organic rollout and forces unnecessary comparison before the music even drops. And comparison is the key word here. Even if both albums are completely different sonically, charts will place them side by side. Headlines will frame numbers in contrast. Drake debuts at X. Baby Keem opens at Y. Whether fair or not, narratives will be constructed around who won. That scoreboard mentality can shape perception long after the first week ends. But what makes this moment particularly compelling is unpredictability. Drake has the advantage in scale, larger audience, broader global reach, proven first-week consistency. Yet scale doesn't automatically guarantee cultural resonance. We've seen moments where smaller projects dominate discourse because they capture a feeling, a mood, or a generational shift. If Baby Keem delivers an album that feels fresh and forward-thinking, he could own the conversation even if the raw numbers are smaller. Cultural momentum isn't always proportional to streaming totals. Sometimes it's about who sparks dialogue, inspires memes, generates think pieces, and influences peers. On the other hand, if ICEMAN arrives with undeniable hits, tracks that immediately trend, dominate short-form video platforms, and flood playlists, then the overlap becomes a footnote. It transforms from controversy into confirmation that Drake still sets the pace. There's also the psychological angle. By announcing boldly and unapologetically, Drake places pressure on everyone else releasing that week. It signals assurance. It communicates, "I'm comfortable here." That kind of energy can shape how audiences interpret the moment before a single bar is heard. But pressure can work both ways. Expectations for ICEMAN are now magnified. This isn't just another album. It's an album framed as competitive. If it underperforms critically, critics will connect the dots. They'll say the timing didn't match the impact. They'll question whether dominance is slipping. For Baby Keem, the expectations are different. Is not expected to outsell Drake. Is expected to evolve, to deliver something distinct, to prove that artistry can thrive even in crowded spaces. That's a powerful position to be in. Slightly less pressure on numbers, more focus on substance. As midnight approaches, fans are preparing like it's a championship event. Streaming parties are being organized. Prediction threads are multiplying. Chart analysts are calculating projections based on pre-saves and historical data. It feels less like two album releases and more like a cultural checkpoint. Because beyond the numbers and headlines, this moment asks a bigger question. Who shapes the future sound of hip-hop? The veteran who mastered the system, or the innovator redefining it? Of course, there's a possibility that both win. That both projects thrive. That the narrative of ruin fades once listeners realize there's room for multiple voices at the top. Hip-hop has always been competitive, but it's also expansive. Still, tension fuels engagement. And right now, tension is at its peak. Two artists, two visions, one release window. When the streams refresh and the charts update, perception will start solidifying. But until then, the speculation itself is part of the spectacle. And in an era where attention is currency, Both Drake and Baby Keem are already collecting. Now the conversation is shifting from speculation to strategy. Because once fans get past the shock of the overlapping release dates, the next logical question becomes, what happens after the drop? For Drake, ICEMAN isn't just another project. It's a statement piece. The title alone suggests something calculated, controlled, emotionally detached. That branding feels intentional. It signals composure, precision, a reminder that no matter how loud the outside noise gets, he operates cold and deliberate. Dropping during a competitive window reinforces that image. It says, I don't flinch. But let's look deeper. Drake has always understood momentum cycles. He knows how to stretch an album beyond release week. Strategic music videos, deluxe versions, surprise feature appearances, viral snippets. He plays the long game. Even if opening week becomes a shared spotlight with Baby Keem, Drake's infrastructure allows him to extend visibility for months. That's a major advantage. Baby Keem's rollout, on the other hand, appears more concentrated. His releases often feel like cohesive statements rather than extended campaigns. If his album lands with critical acclaim, it could dominate discussion in artistic spaces. Think music publications, hip-hop analysis channels, and fan forums that value depth over chart performance. But sustaining mainstream algorithm dominance requires a different type of machine. This is where things get interesting. If Drake posts huge first-week numbers, mainstream media headlines will frame it as validation. Drake wins release week. ICEMAN freezes the competition. That narrative could overshadow nuanced discussions about quality. Casual observers often equate bigger numbers with victory. But if Baby Keem delivers an album that critics champion as bold, cohesive, and forward-thinking, it creates a parallel storyline. The industry might begin discussing him as a creative leader of his generation, regardless of streaming totals. That type of positioning has long-term implications. We've seen moments like this before in hip-hop history. Established superstars drop alongside rising innovators. The superstar typically wins commercially. The innovator often wins culturally. Years later, those cultural wins can age into legendary status. However, there's another possibility that hasn't been emphasized enough: collaboration over conflict. What if the ruined narrative is entirely fan-driven? What if there's no behind-the-scenes tension at all? The music industry thrives on optics, but artists themselves don't always view timing as personal warfare. Drake has collaborated across generations. He's worked with rising stars and underground voices. It's possible he sees the overlap not as sabotage, but as coexistence. The internet, hungry for drama, may be amplifying a rivalry that doesn't exist. Still, perception shapes reality. And right now, perception is intense. Streaming platforms will inevitably spotlight both artists. But homepage dominance often rotates based on engagement velocity. If one album trends faster within the first 12 hours, that early lead can snowball. Conversely, if Keem drops a track that becomes the soundtrack of the week on short-form platforms, momentum could tilt dramatically. The psychological pressure is real too. Even if artists claim not to watch numbers, their teams do. Labels monitor real-time data. Management tracks streaming spikes hour by hour. Competitive proximity adds intensity. And yet, there's something almost poetic about this moment. It reflects the evolving state of hip-hop. The old guard and the new wave aren't separated by years anymore. They coexist in the same digital space, competing for the same playlists and attention spans. If Drake dominates, it reinforces longevity as king. If Baby Keem thrives, it signals generational transition. If both succeed, it proves that the culture is big enough for multiple lanes. But the stakes feel bigger than usual because of timing, because of headlines, because of how quickly narratives escalate online. Right now, neither album has been heard in full. All debates are theoretical, but once the music drops, theory becomes evidence. Will ICEMAN showcase reinvention or refinement? Will Baby Keem's project expand his sonic universe or double down on what already works? These questions matter more than release dates. Still, timing created the stage, and now both artists are walking onto it simultaneously. When the charts refresh after week one, numbers will dominate the discourse. But months from now, what people remember won't just be first week totals. It'll be which album felt necessary, which one replayed longer, which one shaped playlists, conversations, and influence beyond a single Friday. Because in the end, you can't ruin a great album with timing alone. You can only challenge it to prove itself. As the final hours before release tick down, the energy surrounding this moment feels less like a typical album rollout and more like a cultural checkpoint. What started as a scheduling surprise has evolved into a referendum on dominance, direction, and the future of mainstream hip-hop. For Drake, ICEMAN represents more than new music. It represents positioning. After years at the top, every move he makes is interpreted through the lens of legacy. Is he extending his reign, reinventing himself, or simply reinforcing a formula that continues to work? Dropping during a crowded window suggests confidence. It suggests that he doesn't need a quiet stage. He is the stage. But confidence also invites scrutiny. Because when you choose to release alongside a rising force like Baby Keem, you're not just sharing a calendar date. You're inviting comparison. And comparison in the streaming era is relentless. Social media doesn't wait for context. Within hours of release, screenshots of chart positions will circulate. Streaming totals will be dissected. Debut projections will be debated like playoff scores. Yet focusing solely on numbers misses the deeper narrative forming beneath the surface. This moment highlights the generational tension that always exists in music. Veterans aim to prove staying power. Newer voices aim to prove evolution. Drake embodies institutional mastery, the ability to navigate the system at scale. Baby Keem embodies creative momentum, the energy of an artist still shaping and reshaping his sound. When those forces collide, the result isn't necessarily destruction. It can be acceleration. If ICEMAN delivers massive first-week numbers, it reaffirms Drake's command over global streaming culture. It reminds everyone that no matter how trends shift, he remains algorithm-proof. But if Baby Keem's album ignites critical acclaim and sustained cultural discussion, it reinforces that innovation can coexist with, and sometimes outshine, commercial dominance. And here's the truth. The narrative of ruining might ultimately say more about fan psychology than artist intention. Fans crave stakes. They crave rivalry arcs. It makes the music feel bigger, more dramatic, more cinematic. Framing the release dates as a battle transforms a normal industry occurrence into an event. And events drive engagement. Engagement drives streams. Streams drive headlines. In that sense, both artists benefit from attention. There's also a strategic brilliance in how this is unfolded. Without either artist directly addressing the overlap, the internet has built an entire storyline on their behalf. Think about that. Free publicity fueled by speculation alone. Reaction channels are preparing breakdowns. Bloggers are drafting who won pieces before the albums even drop. Streaming anticipation is heightened precisely because listeners feel like they are participating in a moment. And moments are currency in modern music. Still, when the midnight countdown ends, hype will meet reality. The music will speak. And that's the part no marketing plan can fully control. If Drake experiments sonically and surprises listeners, the narrative could shift from competition to reinvention. If he leans into familiar territory but executes flawlessly, it becomes another chapter in a career defined by consistency. If Baby Keem expands his sound and delivers a cohesive artistic leap, critics may frame this as the moment he officially steps into elite territory. If he refines rather than reinvents, fans may appreciate the growth without necessarily seeing it as generational takeover. What's powerful about this release week is that it forces both artists to stand firmly in their identities. Drake can't rely solely on presence. Expectations are sky high. Baby Keem can't rely solely on narrative. Execution matters. And that's healthy for the culture. Competition, real or perceived, pushes creativity. It sharpens focus. It raises standards. Some of hip-hop's most iconic eras were shaped by artists dropping within proximity of each other, each trying to outdo the last. Not out of personal hostility, but out of artistic drive. When people say Drake is trying to ruin Baby Keem's album, They are framing this as sabotage. But it might actually be something far more productive. A test. A challenge. A reminder that greatness holds up under pressure. Because here's the reality. If Baby Keem's album is undeniable, no timing can suppress it. Word of mouth spreads too fast. Clips go viral too quickly. Cultural shifts happen organically. And if ICEMAN hits with the force Drake is known for, it won't matter who else dropped that week. He'll command attention regardless. So instead of viewing this as destruction, maybe it's evolution. Two different lanes converging briefly before continuing on their own paths. When the charts settle and the online debates cool, what will remain is the music itself. The replay value, the quotable bars, the tracks that linger months later. Because in the end, release dates spark conversation, but longevity defines careers. And as both Drake and Baby Keem prepare to drop, one thing is undeniable. This isn't just another Friday in hip-hop. It's a moment that will be remembered not for who tried to overshadow whom, but for who delivered when the spotlight was brightest. So what do you think? Is Drake making a power move with ICEMAN? Or is the internet blowing this whole thing out of proportion? And more importantly, who's really about to own release week? Drop your predictions in the comments right now. Are you streaming Drake first, or are you locking in with Baby Keem at midnight? Let's see where the loyalty really stands. If you love breaking down hip-hop drama, industry chess moves, chart battles, and everything happening behind the scenes, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our full album breakdowns, first week sales reactions, and live scoreboard updates. This release week is shaping up to be one of the biggest moments of the year, and we're covering every angle. Stay tapped in, stay vocal, and let's see who really runs the game when the numbers go live.